Tampa Bay Buccaneers left tackle Tristan Wirfs got paid, or in other words, that pirate got the booty. That and more coming up on this episode of Locked On NFL.
You are Locked On NFL, your daily NFL podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And welcome into this Friday episode of Locked On NFL, your daily podcast.
No, I'm not letting you off. I'm not letting you off. You can say that in a minute. What the heck did you say that Tristan Wirfs got? I broke protocol here, man. What?
That's what pirate treasure is called. It's called booty.
I'm just checking now. I'm making sure we don't get fired. I was just making sure we was on point and that had some background. See, I didn't know what it was. I'm glad you explained it. Now go ahead and do the little locked on thing.
Hopefully everybody else out there doesn't have their brain in the gutter like my co-host here. But welcome to this Friday episode of Locked On NFL. This is your daily podcast covering the National Football League, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. We'll see if we're part of the Locked On Podcast Network next week. But in the meantime, thank you so much for making Locked On NFL your first listen of the day every day. Don't forget that you can subscribe for free on YouTube or wherever you are listening to this podcast. I am David Harrison. He is Tony Wiggins. If you're just joining us for the first time, believe it or not, we are both credentialed members of the media covering the Washington Commanders, myself, Jacksonville Jaguars for Tony, and we are your Friday duo here on Locked On NFL for now. Locked On NFL is here with you every Monday through Friday, along with our everydayers and everydayers. You already know because you're here every day, but we appreciate you for coming through like you do. Today's episode brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more as the playoffs wind down. The sports stop sporting like we want them to, but this summer, FanDuel is hooking up every customer with a boost or a bonus daily. That's right. There's someone for everyone every day, all summer long. So visit FanDuel.com to get started today and get that booty of your own. Yes, booty is pirate treasure. It's what pirates called their treasure. It's their booty. I don't know the source of it. I don't know the history of it, but trust me, that is what it's called. We're not being inappropriate here. Tristan Wirfs got paid on Thursday. Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So Adam Schefter was the first one that I saw to report this. So Adam Schefter of ESPN. Shout out to that young fella. Buccaneers and three-time Pro Bowl offensive tackle Tristan Wirfs reached an agreement on a 5-year, $140.63 million contract extension that now makes him the highest paid offensive lineman in NFL history. Wirfs was in the final year of a contract scheduled to pay him $18.24 million. This year, he is now contractually tied to Tampa through 2029. So as someone who still writes about the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, I can get credentials if and when I'm in the Tampa area, which isn't often. I can tell you right now, Tristan Wirfs, highly, highly deserving of this wig. Yet another contract this offseason, resetting the market. The Buccaneers now have the highest paid defensive back in the National Football League in Antoine Winfield Jr., the safety, and Tristan Wirfs, the highest paid offensive tackle in history, making $28.12 million on average, which tops Penei Sewell's contract by about $120,000 a year, which is a very low number. Christian Darrisaw just got his new deal. He's making $26 million per year. So Tristan Wirfs tops him by $2.12 million. What do you think of the deal, Wig? What do you think about the deserving nature of Tristan Wirfs?
I love it. I love it for him. In fact, I have him ranked right at the top. If you look at the list of the best left tackles in the National Football League, the only guy that's young that's ranked above him is Penei Sewell. Other than that, everybody else is like Trent Williams, it's like Lane Johnson, it's Teron Armstead. It's all of those dudes that are kind of, even though they're still in their prime and they're still very good, they're on the other side of it. It's very rare in these days that you can identify a guy after 3 or 4 years and say, you know what, he's going to Canton if he doesn't get hurt. You know what I mean? And Wirfs is definitely one of those guys. Like you mentioned Darrisaw, and I don't know if I think that highly of them. You know, I may think that Joe Alt, and he ain't played it down. I may think that Joe Alt is the guy that is next for that. Andrew Thomas got his money already with the Giants. So for me, it's a breath of fresh air that, you know, these guys are getting paid. They are very, very important. I have never agreed with Jim Harbaugh more when they were asking him why didn't he get weapons for Justin Herbert in the draft. And he said, offensive linemen are weapons. And I totally agree with, if you weaponize them, they are weapons. And look, I cover a franchise where I disagree with people about this. I think Jimmy Smith and Fred Taylor are 1 and 1A, and Tony Boselli is right behind them. And the only reason I say that is because Boselli didn't play long enough for me to have a big. But most people consider Tony Basile the greatest player to ever play in Jacksonville. And he had tremendous value for those teams. You don't realize how good guys like that are until you don't have one. You can get away with adequate guys at that spot, but it's nice that when you have a franchise quarterback, you can put a guy like that outside, and he can be lined up across from Nick Bosa. He can be lined up across from T.J. Watt, and he can be lined up across from Myles Garrett, and you still go, "We all right." Don't mean you're gonna win them all, but you go, "We're all right." You ain't chipping, you ain't doubling, you just sitting them over there. That helps the game plan for a whole bunch of offensive coordinators. That a guy like that, you can neutralize one of the best in the NFL. So I do believe that Wirfs is one of them. He's a champion. He has that DNA, that championship DNA in him. He's a good fit for Tampa. He's a very, very nice draft choice, and he is very deserving of this money. And I think it's a good deal.
Yeah. Hey, listen, shout out to Mike Evans of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who very recently went on NFL Network and made this statement that Tristan Wirfs is probably the best player on that entire team. So you talk about linemen being weapons. Look, you take a really good quarterback and you put him behind a really suspect offensive line, he is not going to be very effective. You take an average quarterback and put him behind the best offensive line, he might take you to the Super Bowl 8 out of 10 years. Just ask the Dallas Cowboys. They know a little bit of something about that. You know who's really happy about this wig? Is someone who's not going to reset the market, but someone who is looking to get paid. That's Trent Williams. Because Trent Williams right now, his deal is not even close to expiring, relatively speaking. His deal runs through 2026, but he's making $23.01 million per year currently. Until Thursday afternoon, that was top 5 tackle money. That was top 5 average annual salary in the tackle class. Now it's 6th. So now Trent Williams, he's already been holding out, but now he can go to the 49ers and say, hey, look, I want at least top 4 money. Top 4 money would be over $25 million a year. He's 32 years old. The 49ers are in a Super Bowl window, so he knows he's kind of got him in a rock and a hard place. Because guess what Brock Purdy is going to be without Trent Williams? No. Not as good.
Right.
Not as good. And that offense is going to be not as good either. But Wig, I want to give you some options here. I'm looking at 2 or 3 guys here that could potentially reset the market. I want to know your thoughts on both of these young fellas. So Penei Sewell, we already talked about, right? He is going to eventually someday, if he stays healthy, reset the market, right? Even as a right tackle, he is going to help reset the market. And then you've got Laramie Tunsil, who is not as young fella, 28 years old. His deal runs through 2026. Laramie, ideally, is probably going to get paid more. Do you think that Laramie Tunsil is now in a situation? He's now the 4th highest paid tackle in the NFL, an average annual salary, $25 million a year. Do you think he's now in a situation, not this year, but look at 2025, where he's got 2 years left on that deal. He's 29 years old. Do you think we can foretell or foresee maybe a holdout or a hold-in situation with Laramie Tunsil trying to get paid before he hits 30? Plus, that Houston Texans team might be in a championship window by then.
Absolutely. And I'm glad you brought that up. Just for housekeeping purposes, I was going to bring Laramie Tunsil up, and I didn't know you were going to do it. And we didn't practice this at all, so I'm going to just let you have it.
That's
for a guy that on draft, that's right. We got it, bro. For a guy that fell in the draft because somebody released a video of him with a bong on his face, right? A mask, and he's getting high. And this is before, I don't even know if you can say weed is normalized now, but before it was more normal than it is now. For a dude that did that, this guy has had more bites at the apple. I think he's already had 2 bites of the apple, and you just said he's 28 years old. That's unreal that this dude is he might get 2 more. Here's what I think is going to happen. After this year, maybe after this year, no later than after 2025, Larry Tunsil is going to, if you're watching on YouTube, he's going to look at them like this. And he's going to get, I'm telling you, he's going to reset. He's going to be the highest paid tackle. He's going to be 29 years old.
29 years old, yeah.
He's going to be the highest paid tackle in NFL history. And he's going to be a first ballot shoe-in Hall of Fame. That's the dude right there. I said Joe Alt. Yep. But before that happens, because Joe Alt's going to have a 5th-year option, and we still got to see him. Yep. This is the guy. This is the man right here that is going to do it. He's going to be the next dude that's going to set this market ablaze, man. And I can't say it come to a better person. I actually know him. He played on AAU team with my godson, and he deserves everything he's going to get. But yeah, he's the one. That's the one that you're going to mark right there to be the guy that's going to do it next.
And then eventually Joe Alt, maybe Penei Sewell, if he stays healthy, Tristan Wirfs maybe again, right? Could do this thing. He'll probably be looking for a new contract when he's 29 years old. His current contract will take him up to about the time he's 30, so he'll probably want to get that redone. This is for a future conversation, but good luck to the Detroit Lions and Tampa Bay Buccaneers GMs in 2028 or 2029 because both Tristan Wirfs and Penei Sewell now have expiring contracts in the same season, which means both those dudes are be looking to get paid. But guess what? They're going to play contract chicken. Neither of them is going to want to sign first. They're both going to want to see what the other one makes because I don't even care if Penei Sewell's a right tackle. Don't bring that here. Trust me, he's going to want that top of the league money. So that's going to be real. You're not only going to be negotiating with your player, you're going to be negotiating with the other team. Like, bro, just get the job done. Just get it done. We'll send you a 6th round pick. Just pay your guy first so we can get this thing over with. But good news for Tristan Wirfs. Good news for other tackles in the NFL looking to get paid. We got some other good news coming. Football is back. Thursday night, the 2024 Hall of Fame game took place. Chicago Bears, Houston Texans, and we're looking ahead to 2025 and who might be some Hall of Fame game candidates. I've got an idea. Wig's got an idea. That's coming up next on today's episode of Locked On NFL, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Today's show is brought to you and sponsored by eBay Motors. That's right. Passion, drive, and patience, just like football. It's the winning formula that also keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. Superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed or power or style, eBay Motors has you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for at eBay Motors. With eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. They got 122 million parts. I cannot believe that. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home huge wins. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit only available to U.S. customers.
2024 Hall of Fame game is in the books. That means football is back. It may not count officially, but it's back at least, and that's important enough at this juncture. Thanks for making Locked On NFL your first listen of the day, every day. Thanks for coming through. Make sure you come back Monday. Kevin Ostreicher of Locked On Ravens will be coming through with the biggest stories around the National Football League for you, so make sure you come back for that. In the meantime, if you need more sports coverage, Locked On Sports Today has got you covered. Free 24/7 sports streaming channel program for you every day to bring you the biggest stories without all of the drama. Locked On Sports Today brings you can't miss analysis, opinions, and news, and it's all streaming free 24/7 on YouTube or the free Amazon Fire TV channels app, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. There's also a 24-hour live streaming Locked On NFL stream, so you can check that out as well if you only want NFL news. Wig, Hall of Fame game in the books, Houston Texans, Chicago Bears, no CJ Stroud, no Caleb Williams, but it's still football, and that's an important step towards getting to the football we all really want, which is regular season, then eventually preseason or postseason, and then Senior Bowl, scouting combine, draft, offseason, mini camp, training camp, and we're right back where we started from right here and now. I got an idea on who could be the next matchup for the Hall of Fame game, but I want to turn it over to you, Wig, first. I want to get your idea of who you think could be a good, suitable fit for next year's Hall of Fame game.
Well, I think a lot of it will go based on how this season goes. It'll be determined by how this season goes. Mm-hmm. But I'll say right off the top of my head, you kind of want guys that are going to play a little bit in the game. I would go with Atlanta. And the reason why I would go with Atlanta is because I think we'll get a big dose of Michael Penix. And I would go with the Dallas Cowboys. I can't stand mentioning them when I want it. But I'll mention it because you ain't gonna see Dak Prescott, even though I think they're gonna re-sign him. But you'll get a look at Trey Lance and see, what do they have there? Because it's gonna come a time when they got to figure out what they're gonna do with him. Are they gonna make him a backup? Are they trying to do to him what Green Bay did with Jordan Love? Have teams learned their lesson? It looks like Atlanta's gonna do that, right? Atlanta's gonna let their quarterback sit for a while. It gives you a chance to see if there's going to be a change in swing from them rushing young QBs. And if not, you don't see them a lot during the regular season this year. Guys that were either picked high or picked in the first round that are being asked to wait, you get to see them in action next year because you probably won't see it this year. So to give you and the fan base a little bit of an idea, especially when you're guys like us, we really follow the draft. There are a lot. We love these games like this because we get to see dudes that we looked at, ad nauseum all off season. So for me, I would say Atlanta and I would say Dallas. And the reason I would say those two teams is because I really would like to see what those young quarterbacks, and I don't know if they go AFC, NFC, but if they don't go AFC, NFC, if they go two teams from one conference, whatever. Those are the two teams I think I want to see because I don't think we're going to see either one of those backup quarterbacks this year at all.
Yeah, you know what? That's a really good matchup. That's a better matchup than the one I got. So that's a really good matchup. And I think that's really like when you're the NFL and you're thinking about the Hall of Fame game, right? That's really what you gotta have to look at is how do we make the Hall of Fame game more attractive than just being the first football game of the new NFL season. And Trey Lance, Michael Penix Jr., like that's a good matchup. That's a really good matchup. You don't need the starting quarterbacks and you throw those guys out there. I went a little bit kind of trying to take the angle that the league took this year. So if you look at what they did this year, they got the best rookie quarterback from last year's class, his team playing in this game. And then you have the new number one quarterback from this year's class. His team is playing in this game. Now, again, neither quarterback is actually playing, but they're going to be on the sideline and storylines. And I don't know, they'll probably do some sideline interviews and all this. Like this, it's an exhibition game, right? They can do a little bit extra there. So there's a little bit of a reason to kind of come there. If you're a USC fan, if you're an NFL draft nerd, if you're a Chicago Bears fan, you're going to tune in. Same thing goes for the other side of the ball. So the best quarterback from this year's rookie class, of course, is going to be Jaden Daniels from the Washington Commanders. So you put the Washington Commanders in there. That means I got to take my butt to Canton, Ohio for an extra preseason game next year, which I'm okay with doing that if that's what needs to happen. Then the first quarterback taken in next year's draft class, I'm looking at the Tennessee Titans. And right now, I think the number one quarterback, a lot of people think it could be Carson Beck. Some people have the Tennessee Titans finishing with a top 5 overall NFL draft pick. May not be the number one overall pick, but it could be a top 5 pick. And they have the Tennessee Titans going outside of quarterback, thinking that, well, Will Levis will just be entering his third year, so give him another opportunity. Wig, I look at the Tennessee Titans, and I think if you're finishing with a top 5 pick this year after this season, you might be getting rid of Will Levis, or you might be moving on from Will Levis. He might be moving to the bench, and a guy like Carson Beck or QB1 to be named later potentially could be that replacement. You move the Tennessee Titans in there. You move the Washington Commanders in there. You got the top quarterback rookie from the year before. You got the top quarterback picked from this year's class or 2025's class. And those two teams go at it. You got AFC, you got NFC. So you get a little bit of both sides of the coin there. And who knows, maybe London Fletcher is getting inducted into the Hall of Fame at the same time. And you add a little bit of the Washington history all in there as well. That would make everybody happy, I think. So that's my ideas. Commanders v Titans. And some people are going to call me selfish, but honestly, having to pay for a 4th preseason game is not really selfish. That's not the flex that you might think that it would be.
Right.
What do you think of my idea? What do you think about that?
I like it. As soon as you started saying it, and you said the best quarterback from this year and that year, I love it. I wonder if, though, because they'll be using it as a tool for marketing, will they encourage the teams at least play the guys, man? People want to see,
I think, the NFL would love it. But here's the other wrinkle, actually, too. Hard Knocks is the Chicago Bears this year. If the Washington Commanders don't make the playoffs, they are eligible to be on Hard Knocks next year. And you got Dan Quinn, you got Frankie Louvu, you got Jaden Daniels, you got whatever draft picks they add to it. I mean, you got a lot of intriguing storylines there. I can see the Washington Commanders being a very sexy option for Hard Knocks next year if they don't make the playoffs this year. So again, you had to have that wrinkle in there as well. And then you get because that's what's going to happen this year, right? You got Caleb Williams, number 1 overall quarterback on Hard Knocks. Well, guess who else you got on Hard Knocks now? CJ Stroud, D'Amico Ryans, Will Anderson. Like, they're not going to play, but you can, if you're HBO and you're the NFL, you can work in highlights, you can work in discussion about them, and you can get those guys in there as well. So I think that's another intriguing part of the equation as well.
I like the fact that you have the Titans picking top 5 because that's the rival of the team that I cover. So that would mean that they had an awful year, and that makes Jaguar fans very happy. I tell you what, if they do take Carson Beck, I know a good game too. We ain't got to even extend this too long, but if Carson Beck goes number 1, have him play the Rams because guess what? Matthew Stafford won't play. Guess who will play? Stetson Bennett, the dude he couldn't beat out. See, so now we start that foolishness. Like, look, you on the bench, and look where I'm at, bro. I couldn't beat you out. And guess where Carson Wentz is from? Jacksonville, Florida. So I know his trainer. I know all of that. It'll be a good thing to see that. I'm always the one trying to start some drama. You know what I'm saying?
You
Got to,
man. Of course,
drama king.
And of course, they can't be played in the regular season schedule. So if that's the case, that whole thing goes up in smoke. But we're not getting that deep into it because it's a fun preseason conversation. We have another fun preseason conversation. Would you rather your favorite team go 0-3 in the preseason or 3-0, winless or undefeated? Which is the best path to the regular season? That's coming up next on today's episode of Locked On NFL, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, man. If you like me, you love yourself some FanDuel. That's our sponsor for today, FanDuel. I love sports. I love baseball, but I usually like baseball when basketball season and football season, all of that's going on, and we ain't got to wait too long. We'll wait till like September, October, and all of those things will be jiving together. And guess what? Until then, you can still go on FanDuel because they got something for you, man. This summer, FanDuel is hooking up all customers with a boost or a bonus. All you got to do is get the app, man, and just open that thing up, and the possibilities can be endless. Now, there's something for everyone every day, all summer long. Here's what I'm going to tell you while you're looking at baseball. Don't just look at the starters. Look at those bullpens and look at the ERAs for those middle relievers and those closers, because sometimes you get out to a little bit of a big league, and guess what happens? They get walked down. So you need to get all the information before you make your bet. This summer's FanDuel is hooking all customers up with a booster or bonus daily. That's right. There's something for everyone every single day, all summer long. So head over to FanDuel.com and start making the most of your summer. Football ain't that far away, man, but baseball is chomping at the bit. Head on over to FanDuel and make your wagers on baseball, because FanDuel is an official sports betting partner of Major League Baseball.
All right, final segment here on Locked On NFL, wrapping up the week, heading into the weekend. Some fun preseason conversations. We got players getting paid. We got players on the field on Thursday night for the 2024 Hall of Fame game, kicking off the preseason, and we've got preseason games coming. The Washington Commanders start off the preseason next weekend on Saturday against the New York Jets. Who the Jacksonville Jaguars play?
Okay, so next Saturday on the 10th, they play the Kansas City Chiefs. So that's going to be an interesting game. It's a little homecoming for Jawan Taylor. I'm sure they probably won't go crazy playing everybody else. But yes, it's the Chiefs. That's right, because game number 2, they got the joint practices with the Bucs, and Doug Peters has already said because of the joint practices, they're not going to play the starters in game 2. So that's the difference with a 3-game schedule. Normally, game 3 is the dress rehearsal. It might be. I think they're going to put a lot of emphasis on game 1. Game 2 will be primarily backups, and then since game 3 is the last game before the season starts, I think they'll use that to do the roster, taking a look at rosters, and probably only play the guys according. So it might be the fact that week 1 in the 3-game preseason schedule is going to actually take up for week 3, and you see more starters in week 1.
Yeah, and that's kind of the crux of this conversation is, how do people want to manipulate the preseason? How do they want to use it to the best of their advantage, right? The Washington Commanders, same thing. They got 2 joint practices. They got joint practice against the Jets, joint practice against the Dolphins in their first 2 preseason games leading in. So you may not see a lot of Commanders starters or Dolphins or Jets starters on the field in either of those weeks. And then week 3, they got the Patriots coming into the DMV, no joint practice. So that's where you might get a little bit more of a dress rehearsal. Every coach does it a little bit different. I remember there was one preseason where the Washington Commanders didn't play any starters against the Baltimore Ravens. The Baltimore Ravens played their starters for like the first half, ended up losing J.K. Dobbins for the season in that game. So that was a bad decision in hindsight, obviously, but that's hindsight. But the question always comes in with, first of all, it doesn't matter if you win in the preseason. And if you had your choice, do you want your team to go, or is it better for your team, I should say, to go 0-3 or to go 3-0? What do you say?
All right, I want them to go 0-3, but I'm going to tell you, that doesn't mean that I want them to try to lose games. That's ridiculous. If they're keeping score, you try to win. You try to win everything all the time. But I don't believe in sacrificing scheme. I don't believe in giving away information. I don't believe in allowing the teams that you have to play in the first 2 weeks of the season, because that's all it's going to take. After 2 weeks, everybody's going to have a book on you. But the Jaguars missed the playoffs by 1 game. And the year before, they made it by 1 game. So those one games don't always come at the end. Sometimes whether or not you make it is like, what did you do early? And I think they need to steal as many wins as they can up in the front of their season. Here's why. The team you cover is the team that I grew up watching. And I remember Brian Mitchell, one of the most best all-around players ever.
B. Mitch,
when he broke out his rookie year. They won the Super Bowl that year. They went 0-4 in preseason. So what I think happens is if you go 3-0, the fans don't believe it. They're going to want to wait and see. And then you're going to have some people that are so pessimistic, they're going to say, well, you won in the preseason because you know you're not going to win in the regular season. But even if they lose all 3 preseason games, guess what people are going to do? They're going to shrug their shoulders and like, it doesn't matter. They were vanilla. They weren't trying to show anything. It still keeps all the enthusiasm on week 1, but it doesn't put the pressure on you, and it doesn't give you false hope that they're just as good as they were in the preseason. The preseason is going to be forgotten if they're 0-3 because the fans are going to automatically, and organically want to forget about them losing 3 straight games. Now, that doesn't mean I think they should tank. It's just that I believe teams should always hold back as much as they can until it's time for them to actually win games.
Yeah, and when you're doing so, it makes you vanilla, makes you simplistic, makes you one-dimensional, and that's a lot easier to play against if you're on the football field. I want to talk about the other part of this conversation that we always have every preseason, and that's whether or not they matter. Now, obviously, they don't officially matter. They don't go in the record books. You don't get to keep your stats. You don't get to do any of that stuff. Nobody's tracking the most touchdown passes in preseason history, nothing like that, right? Mm-hmm. And outside of the Baltimore Ravens, nobody's tracking, the most wins in a row in the preseason either. But just from being in preseason locker rooms, and Wig, you know this as well, the game matters. The game matters a little bit. Wig, you just mentioned this. If you're out there competing, you want to win, and you want your team or the team that you cover to win as well. And I will tell you this, like, we see preseason games all the time. What do we see the starters doing? They got no pads on, and they're laughing and just hanging out there with their hands in their pads because they got no pockets, or they're doing interviews, doing all this stuff. That's fine. But guess what the other non-22 to 26 starters and main role players are doing? They're fighting their butt off. Yep. And they're not just fighting their butt off to win a football game. This is their career. This is the future of their dream, right? Every one of these players grows up dreaming of playing in the NFL. That's what they're out there doing. So while the broadcast cuts away to Trevor Lawrence laughing with his golden locks flowing in the Jacksonville night and all those things, I don't know who this year's Gardner Minshew is, but that guy is out there fighting for his life and trying to fight for his career, right? So the game absolutely matters. And when you go into a losing preseason locker room, it's not much different than a losing regular season locker room, except there's a certain portion, the starters of the locker room, who don't care about what just happened. But believe me, those other guys care. So the preseason games matter. And I think from an evaluation standpoint, the preseason games matter because you want to see who is stepping up, who rebounds. And that's kind of my point there. I'm with you. Like, obviously, in the best case scenario, I think you lose the first game. You compete the second game and either lose by a little bit, win by a little bit, don't really matter. And then you win the third game. That's like the best case scenario right there. But if I got to pick one or the other, lose or win, I want to lose. And the reason why I'm going to take a different angle on this, I agree with everything you said, but I want to add to it. From a talent evaluation standpoint, you're not just evaluating, can you catch, can you run, can you tackle, are you tough? You're also catching, can you bounce back? And losing is the only way to do that. You don't bounce back from wins. You bounce back from losses. I want to see the bottom of my roster, that 5th round pick, that undrafted free agent, that veteran that was on the street on August 10th that we signed before the game. I want to see when you walk into a losing locker room, the next practice, do you come out motivated or do you come out defeated? That's what I want to see. So if I have to take my choice, I want to see if my guys can rebound. So that's why I would choose losing.
Let me also tell you this. One of the most important things is how you play. So wins or losses may matter. They may not. I'll tell you what, kickers always either win or lose. That's the best battle. But the other thing is who makes it. Antonio Brown, Hall of Fame talent, probably shouldn't be a first ballot guy. I don't know if he'll make it or not, but you know what I mean. 6th round pick. Steve Smith as a return specialist, who was a Hall of Fame talent. I don't know if he'll make it or not, but he should be. Guys like that. And remember this name? Do you remember Victor Cruz, man? When nobody knew who he was, and he blew up and he was dancing around, and then all of a sudden, dude shows up and has a really nice career for the New York Giants. Where did it start? And I mentioned Brian Mitchell at the top. He wasn't supposed to make that team, but he did. He kept returning kickoffs for a touchdown. And I think when he retired, he led the entire league in yards from scrimmage and combined yards with special teams. So I always look for that dude. that guy that's going to bust through and make it happen.
Yeah, man. I just saw B Mitch today. B Mitch is looking good and healthy. He's been riding bikes a lot. He's looking very, very fit. I hope I can look like that when I'm his age as well. So that's gonna wrap it up here today for Locked On NFL. A lot of good conversations, a lot of fun conversations. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it with us. Make sure you come back Monday. Kevin Ostreicher, Locked On Ravens, is gonna be back with a whole new episode of Locked On NFL to a whole new week started off for you, right? So make sure you're subscribed. Make sure you got the notifications, auto downloads turned on for your second listen of the day. Check out Locked On Jags, Locked On Commanders, or check out Locked On NFL Scouting. The draft dudes are going to make you the smartest NFL fans around your water cooler. As always, thank you for making Locked On NFL your first listen of the day every day. Thanks for coming through like you do. For Tony Wiggins, I'm David Harrison. We will see you right back here next Friday for another episode of Locked On NFL, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.